Hey everyone, it's Caroline from Caroline Adams Coaching, and today I'm taking a subscriber question. I thought this was such an interesting topic when I was asking what kind of topics and questions people had. And let me look down and read it so I don't screw it up. So the person is asking for support with identifying what you want to do next when you've been doing unfulfilling work for a long time. And the reason this question struck me, I guess a couple reasons it struck me. Number one, you are not alone, right? I think a lot of us, myself included, I think when we kind of on some level have an inkling that it could be a lot better than what it is, and yet we are stuck in that unfulfilling work, it can be a really hard space to break out of. I think that is why most people, 90% of people, are unhappy in their work because of this feeling. And I think we often kind of underestimate the weight of the longevity, right? The longer we're kind of in this habit. And habits are an important component that we'll come back to. So let's answer this question. Identifying what you want to do next when you've been doing unfulfilling work for a long time. Okay, so number one, I invite you, I think this is a big mistake a lot of people make, right? Is they're like, okay, the world is my oyster. What could I do? Well, I can do anything. And so they kind of blank page try to grasp onto what I call obvious career paths, right? And job titles, right? I could be an architect. I could do something around baking. I've always wanted a cupcake shop. I'm not disparaging those. I think they, in their own way though, can be really overwhelming when we're in this vacuum of unfulfillment and, let's be honest, just kind of hunkering down in this environment, especially for a long time, to then try to pull ourselves out and think, blank page, I can do anything. What would I enjoy most? It really does a number on the brain, and I think it can kind of make us react in a way that like shuts down, like that's impossible, and stop our dreams before they've even started. So what I would recommend actually is, and I have a video for this that I will link below, start with the elements that you want. So some examples, right? What do I want my day-to-day to look like? What do I want my coworkers to look like? How am I spending my day, right? Oh, I spend most of my day in front of the computer. I want to be outside more, right? Spend most of my day crunching numbers in spreadsheets. I want to be out talking to people, right? So don't worry at the outset about the bucket or container or job title. Way too early for that. Let's just get ourselves refocused and start climbing ourselves out of this unfulfilling pit by the elements that light us up and bring us joy. And then we can kind of figure out all the different combinations and permutations of how to do this. The second thing, which is kind of a flavor of number one, is I just invite you, if you're in this space that's really not working, a great technique to start with is two columns. First column, all of the unfulfilling things, all of the things that aren't working, all of the things that you don't want. Just get it out, data dump, no judgment, just get all the crap out on paper. Second column, what do I want instead? And this starts to open up. So you can see it's not blank page kind of, oh, let me think big and dream, right? It's really grounded in, here's this thing that's not working. If I could solve this, what would that look like, right? Oh, I'd get rid of my commute, right? I'd get rid of my coworkers, whatever those things are. But that could be another way to start making the pivot to what you want instead. Third thing, I told you I was going to talk about habits. Let's talk about habits. We often think of habits in terms of actions, right? Going to the gym every day, our morning routine, our nightly routine, right? Stuff that we do and actions we take. And what else are habits? Our mindset, kind of how we think of things, our worldview, right? We get into locked into ways of thinking about the world and even these limiting beliefs, right? Oh, that's never going to happen. Well, here I go again, trying to dream big and think that I can get more than this unfulfilling career. There's really nothing out there, right? All of these things, our way of thinking can become a habit. And the great news is, and neuroscience has proved this, is like all of those deep grooves in our brain that have us thinking the same thoughts in the same way, all of those things can be broken. And it's really powerful to shatter those habits. So this might sound a little kooky or quirky, but what I invite you to do is for the next 30 days, do something differently. And it could be the same thing you do differently, or it could be just, I'm going to set myself a goal every day to break up something that I do and have done a certain way. I'm going to do it differently. I'm going to eat dinner for breakfast or breakfast for dinner or whatever. It's going to be a real life example that I did actually when I was still I was leaving sabbatical, going back to my full-time job, knew I didn't want to be there, and was trying to like gird myself for the period of time where I could, fully extricate myself. In the morning, I spent time on just Caroline time. And one of the things that I did, sometimes my morning routine would change a little bit in terms of what I focused on, but creativity was so important to me. And I felt like creativity was just gone from my life, or the fun sort of creativity that I like engaging with. And so a big piece of my morning habit became looking at pretty, I love interior design, looking at pretty interior design photos, right? So it could be something as simple as that, but hopefully you hear kind of in just shifting my morning lens to, snooze, and then get up and go into this automaton existence of, hating what I did. I started that day with the habit of creativity and joy and just for me, right? So you can kind of start to hear if these are aligned for you, fill in the blanks with what feels good to you, can hear how powerful these shifts can be. So start breaking those habits. And hopefully you also heard in my example, really lean in as you shift this way of doing things. Don't just, I think it could be pretty powerful actually to kind of change things like dinner to breakfast and vice versa. But I think they can really be powerful and feel much better to reinforce and keep doing if you tap into the feeling or the value, right? So part of the reason my morning routine worked so well is that it just fed me that morning dose of creativity and me time and like, oh, my life is my own. There's a way out of this in a way that I wasn't getting from work. And so if you can not just shift around habits for habits' sake, but really align them with the feeling that you want or the value, as I said. Okay, so that's number 3. Number 4, okay, so also in the spirit of habits and our environments, right? We get in these environments, these bubbles, where that becomes our reality, right? And it's true. I'm not saying your reality is not your reality. I'm saying you are seeing a slice of the universe that is one reality. And the great news is there are so many other versions of reality out there, right? I remember thinking when I wanted to leave to start my business, when I wanted to leave my corporate job, and yet, wasn't feeling ready to and kind of thought about changing. I was in a very toxic situation. And so when I would think about just changing jobs in the short term, literally all I could think about was another, like the same thing that I was doing already, like the same role at a different bank. Right. And it was just like, I was so stunted in my thinking. I couldn't imagine, even though my career up to that point was like very varied, or a lot of threads I could have pulled, I did not have that insight. And so just know that if that's you, everything becomes kind of gray when we're in that space for a really long time. It can be really hard. And so one of the things we can do is pull ourselves out of that bubble, right? Talk to other people, inhabit different environments, right? So if it's a volunteer activity, if it is going different places, right? It's kind of along the same line of habits, but it's seeing people operate differently. So my first day of coaching school was a revelation. Here are all these different people from all these different career paths with all sorts of ideas about how they wanted to use and apply coaching. Talk about getting out of your bubble. If you are surrounded by people who are stuck and settling in their jobs, right? If you try to talk to them and navigate within your bubble and kind of think beautiful thoughts, you're not going to get anywhere, right? Because they are reflecting back to you the very things that scare you most and that you're most afraid of. We want to get into other people's bubbles. So those are my 4 ideas to start with. I think there's a lot of other things we could talk about, but I invite you to start with those, and I would love to hear your thoughts. Comment below. Talk to you soon.